Hello, church. Here we are in Jeremiah chapter 51 and 30. I want to start in chapter 51 and then go back to chapter 30. And what I want to do here is help us see the language that God uses to prepare the Israelites, the people of Judah, for the coming judgment. So we see in the last 5 verses of chapter 51 that we are now in the 4th year of Zedekiah, who we know from in 2 Kings is the last king of Judah. And what I want us to see here is he reigned for 11 years, which means that chapter 51 is written 7 years prior to when the people of Judah are going to be brought off to exile and be deported to Babylon. Now then, after 70 years, God is going to rescue them. And so we got to see here, we are talking about a long timeline here. We're talking 7 years plus 70 before this passage is going to be fulfilled. And yet, what do we see here? We see lots of wording that would reassure the Israelites, God has not abandoned you. I am going to be with you. I am telling you before these things happen, so that when they do, when you go off to captivity, you are going to know I am still there with you, and I am going to help you through the difficulty and pain so that you will not lose heart. Church, look at this. In chapter 51, we can see that he's using words regarding the judgment of Babylon, like destroy, winnow, devastate. They're going to be broken. They're going to be destroyed. Church, we can see that God is telling the people ahead of time so that they will not lose heart in that place. And what we can see here, I believe, is a similar principle to what Paul is talking about in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, where Paul is saying, church, don't focus on what is seen, but what is unseen, because what is unseen is eternal, but what is seen is temporary. I think God is reminding these Israelites of that same principle, that's saying, guys, I know it's going to be hard for a while, and my heart actually is really broken about that, but take heart. I am with you, and I'm leading you through this time, and in the end, it's going to be wonderful. How do I know that? Because in chapter 30, we can see that he is now going to be addressing the Israelite nation, and instead of all the destructive language he's just talked about for the Babylonians in chapter 51, he is now going to talk about all kinds of redemptive language. Like in verse 2 and 3, he's talking about that he's going to bring his people back. He's going to restore them. He's going to save them. They're going to have peace and security and so forth. You will see throughout this chapter, now he's talking about restoration and redemption and peace. And church, we can see here that God's heart is for them, not against them. And we can see that he is wanting to give them hope in that place of difficulty and pain. That is actually so good. I love that God does that, because like many of us, we've walked through or are walking through times of difficulty and pain. And I want us to take out of this that, church, God sees you. He sees me when we're walking in pain, and he is with us to give us hope in those times. But here's the thing. I want us to understand that sometimes we need to start getting in the habit as a society of seeing God's blessings and promises fulfilled generationally. And what I mean by that is that we can see from Hebrews 11, for example, that there were people that God did things for in the moment that were just incredible. And I think sometimes we dream about God doing those things. But there were also people that received the promises from afar and never actually saw them come to be. And what I want us to see, church, is that God does not forget your prayers or mine. Our prayers are not ineffective or void or forgotten just because we may not see them come to pass in the time frame that we hope for. We can be assured that God will answer our prayers according to his divine timing, and they are not wasted. But we will only really have faith and hope in that when we see that God's promises of his faithfulness are applied to our lives at times generationally. And so I want to encourage us, church, even if we are in a place, if you are in a place, if I am in a place right now where we don't understand what God is doing, take heart, because he sees us and knows what is best for us in that place. All right? And then I want to see real quick in chapter 51, a separate truth that I think is just actually a bit of fun, although it's actually a very serious concept, okay? Look at verse 20 to 23. This is great. There is an image here that is just like, I'll admit, maybe for me as a guy, this is maybe a bit more fun than sometimes, but I think this is just a great image. He is saying essentially about the people, the Medes and the Persians who are going to come and take over from Babylon. He is saying that they are his war club and they are his weapon for battle. I think this is just great. Church, do you and I ever imagine ourselves as like this club, this war club in the hand of the Lord that he's going to use to bring judgment to people? I think this is great. And what I want us to see here, this applies to Ephesians chapter 6 and also 2 Corinthians chapter 10, where it talks about the fact that we do not wage war the way that the world wages war, but the weapons we fight with are strong and mighty for bringing down the strongholds to take captive thoughts and make them obedient to Christ. Church, you and I can be a war club in the hand of the Lord when we commit ourselves to praying and fighting in the Spirit for ourselves, for our families, for our churches, for our nation. And so, church, let's not lose heart. Let's take hold of the promises of God to fight in the Spirit. And today, let him lead you in terms of who you should be praying for in that way. Blessings, church. I hope you have a great and powerfully effective day today in the hands of the Lord.